Hey, friends, in today's episode, we're chatting with Danielle Cobo, who's made bold moves and confident choices to build something incredible. We'll dive into her journey, the key lessons learned, and some surprising insights along the way. A little about our incredible guest. Danielle Cobo is a powerhouse in resilience and leadership, a former Fortune 500 sales leader who took a bold leap to build her own business, and she now helps professionals rise, lead, and thrive. She is a best selling author of Unstoppable Grit, and she's on a mission to ignite success. While balancing life as a military spouse and a twin boy mom, she's got her hands full. So get ready for this conversation. It is packed with insights you can apply today. So, Danielle, I am super excited to have you today.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here.
Well, I know everybody still wants to know a little bit more about you. So, can you share a little more about your story?
Oh, I had no intention of necessarily starting a business, but ended up starting my first business when I was 7 years old. Yep, selling mistletoe
Wow.
outside the grocery store, and that's where I learned and had a passion for sales. Spent 15 years in corporate working as a senior sales manager for a medical sales company. And then for the past, oh gosh, now 5 years, I've actually been doing speaking specifically on resilience in sales and leadership.
Wow. Okay. So, Danielle, a few things. Everyone, I was introduced to Danielle through, of course, a connection. You know, the power of networking. When I first met her and saw her incredible marketing, you are a marketing powerhouse, girlfriend.
And that's funny you mention it because that's why I say I wasn't intending and starting a business. What ended up happening was in a series of events that took place in 2020, which as many of us had experienced in 2020, it was a year of a lot of change. So in 6 month period, my husband had just returned home from serving a year deployment in Iraq. He was in Iraq for a year. Our twins would be between the ages of 1.5 and 2.5 years old. So he comes back, and as we're starting to kind of adjust to this new life with him home, which was a little bit harder than I had anticipated, I had actually lost my mom, and my mom had passed away from suicide. So, as I was trying to cope with this loss, a week later, the pandemic hit, shut the global world down. And then a couple months after that, the organization that I'd been with 7 years had been acquired by a larger organization, and it became a very, very toxic work culture where a lot of people ended up leaving. And so these series of events all took place within a 6 month period. And I share this with you because initially I went on LinkedIn to look for a job, and I realized if I want to start looking for a job, I want to really start to work on my brand. Like, who am I as Danielle? And what type of jobs do I want to start attracting? And what ended up happening is I ended up sharing posts about sales and leadership and failures that I've made and learning lessons along the way. And then all of a sudden, people started reaching out to me and asking for coaching and asking for me to come in and teach to their sales team. And that's why I say I didn't have the intention of starting a business and being a full time speaker, but it ended up being the biggest blessing in disguise.
What a story. There are so many people who are wanting to jump in and do what you do, Danielle, and it just naturally happened for you.
I would say it's just a matter of showing up. It's amazing what happens when we show up.
Mm. Something that seems so simple, but can be so hard for people.
You're right. It can be a lot of hard because one of the roadblocks that I talk about in the book that prevent us from achieving the goals or the success that we want is this fear of perfectionism.
Yeah.
People will go to write something, maybe they have a story that they want to share, but perfectionism gets in the way, or the fear of what will people think. When you go in with the intention of, I just want to help people, I want to inspire people, I want people to read this story and find themselves in it, it removes the fear because you're not thinking about what's in it for me or how will people think of me. You start thinking about how can I serve other people? And it's more of a them focus than it is a you focused.
What a great perspective. If we can just flip the script right there, it allows it to become easier and more manageable in our mind, and that people aren't judging us for saying what we might say or for putting ourselves out there, because in our mind at that point, we're helping others, which should
Absolutely.
always be at the forefront.
Mhm.
So, Danielle, I could keep digging into your story more, but I have a feeling maybe some of this might come out when I ask you the big question. And that is, what would you say was the big, bold, and confident move in your life that took things to the next level for you, professionally or personally?
That moment when my mom had passed and I started writing her obituary, and it became a very self-reflective moment when I started to think about what does my mom want to be recognized for and what does she want her legacy to be? And then I started to ask myself, what do I want my legacy to be? And I actually did this exercise where I went on Facebook and I said, if you could describe me in 3 words, what would it be? And people started commenting with all of these words: resilient, gritty, inspiring, motivating. And I said, okay, well, instead of asking ourselves, what do we want to do? What if we asked ourselves, who do we want to be? What impact do we want to make? And what legacy do we want to leave? And in order to figure that out, I took all of those words that people described, family and friends, and I wrote my own obituary from the perspective of a colleague and a perspective of a family member. And what that did was it helped me understand what my core values are. It helped me redefine what success is, because success to me used to be the titles, the awards, especially being in sales, where so much of your success is tied to President's Club awards and Region Manager of the Year and stock options and what we're getting paid. And that was a lot of where I viewed success. And I started to stop looking at that and saying, really, to me, success is, what impact am I making on people's lives? Am I being intentional with the time that I have with my kids? When it comes time for when they have their obituary and they're writing it about me, are they going to talk about all the hours that I worked, or are they going to talk about how we just had spring break and we watched the show With Love and Megan and we made all the recipes from the show and they learned how to cook? My twins are 7, so we're learning how to cook. I want to be known for that. And it really helped me redefine what success means to me versus what society's success is.
So, Danielle, tell us more about that process of writing your obituary. What did it look like, or what does it look like today?
Yeah, it sounds a bit morbid when you are writing your own obituary, but I think it's an opportunity to really think about, how are you spending your time? Who are you spending your time with? Again, what's the impact that you want to make? The legacy that you want to leave? How do you want people to feel when you're in the room? How do you want people to feel when you leave the room? How do you want people to talk around a campfire and talk about all the fun memories that they shared with you? And that's really where it goes into writing your own obituary will help you get clarity on what success means to you and who you want to be, not necessarily what you want to do.
So, Danielle, I've heard of this concept of writing your own obituary. I've never heard it come from someone like yourself who actually was inspired because of tragic loss in your own life and trying to go through the process of writing someone else's. So, if we were to look at your obituary today, what would it say about Danielle?
My hope is that when it comes to my kids, that they're going to say, my mom was at our biggest cheerleader. She was at every single baseball game and cheered us on. And she taught us how to cook. And we have fun memories of when they start to cook with their kids, they're going to think about all the memories that we created of cooking together and how we did it together. My hope is that when it comes to people that I've interacted with in a professional setting, I just received a comment on LinkedIn yesterday, and somebody said, "You don't know me, you've never met me, but a couple years ago, you shared a very personal story on LinkedIn about the story of my mom and I, and how it was a very beautiful, but it was also a very broken relationship because my mom suffered from bipolar disorder." And she said, "You shared this vulnerable story of being kicked out at 17 and how it was a beautiful and broken relationship." And the person commented and said, "I didn't understand how you could forgive until I had commented back." It said, "Mental illness is something that is not my mom's fault. It is something that she is trying to manage, and sometimes it's on the right meds and sometimes she's not, but I'm not going to hold that against her." And this woman messaged me on LinkedIn and she says, you don't realize that a couple of years ago, that comment had changed her relationship with her mom. And so sometimes it is just showing up and sharing our stories. Sometimes our mess can be our message, our pain can be our purpose, but always living with the intention of just bringing joy to people's lives is really the obituary that I hope that will be written about me when my time does come. Hopefully a long time. I lay in bed every night and I pray to God that I get to be a grandparent many years from now because that's how long I want to live.
Danielle, I have chills from head to toe when you told that story. And to your point, putting ourselves out there to help others, even if it's just one, can be so impactful and life changing for someone else. Many of us look at our life and our moves, I'm going to say our bold moves, and think they're not bold. But until we share them with others and the reasoning behind them, you don't realize that can make a difference for someone.
It absolutely can. I always appreciate vulnerability in others to share. And there's a difference in vulnerability, sharing your story from an open wound versus a scar. And what I mean by that is if you're sharing it from an open wound, there's still a lot of triggering emotions associated with it. So sometimes it can be perceived as drama. Versus when you're sharing from a place of a scar, you're talking about, hey, here's a challenging situation that I went through. And this is some of the failures that I had, but these are also some of the learning lessons that I learned from it. And here's how it set me up for success moving forward. And it could be anything from there's some people that are on LinkedIn that share their story of being laid off and how it was devastating at the time, but it ended up being a blessing because it opened up a door to a greater opportunity with another company. And those types of stories help those that are just going through layoffs at the time, or somebody who has gone through anything in their life. Our mess can be a very powerful message if we're just willing to share it.
That analogy of an open wound to a scar, that resonated big time with me because so many of us in the moment, we feel so wounded when that big event happens, right? And we're always told there's something better on the other side. And it's hard to see that when you're in the thick of it. But when that wound heals into a scar, you're right, Danielle. That's when you can see the beauty
Mhm.
of that adventure that you went through in your life, good or bad.
Yeah. So, one thing that it would encourage people to do is take a moment to sit in a quiet space and to think about all of the challenges. And this is something that somebody had shared on my podcast, Unstoppable Grit, and a great exercise that he had shared with me. I forget the name of the gentleman, but he had said, take a piece of paper and on the piece of paper, write down every situation that has happened to you, every challenge. You've been laid off, you lost a family member, you didn't get the deal, whatever it is, went through bankruptcy, went through a divorce, all these things that happened to you, and cross it off because it didn't happen to you. These are all situations and events that you eventually overcame. And sometimes we get so caught in the moment of what's all the challenges that we're dealing with at that moment, instead of thinking and saying, look at everything that I've overcome in my life and how it's opened up doors that I never knew would have been there if those situations didn't happen. And look at what I've learned along the way and how it's prepared me for this challenge that I'm facing currently. Because if there's one thing that we're going to experience in all areas, there's always going to be uncertainty. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be obstacles. But the difference between those that get stuck in the situation and those that overcome it really comes down to the mindset that we have when we approach it.
What great advice. And I need to do that myself, Danielle. So that is on my agenda, everyone. I'm going to go take a notebook, sit in a corner, and I'm going to write down my challenges because we've all had them and we've all overcome them. So,
Yeah.
Danielle, let's talk about your best selling book, Unstoppable Grit. Where did that come from?
Oh, so it was a year and a half writing process. It was a labor of love, but the book is a collection of each chapter is a story, whether it's about myself, whether it's about a client of mine, names have been changed, or it's about situations happened in corporate and it's a story. And then it's the learning lessons that have taken place from that story, and then practical advice that the reader can apply toward their life. My hope is that the readers, when they're reading this book, they can relate to the stories. They, in one way, shape, or form, have dealt with burnout, with overwhelm, with career changes, with feeling stuck in their career and wanting clarity. If they're wanting to redefine success and what their own terms are. So, my hope is that they read these stories, they can relate to them, and then they have practical, tangible steps that they can walk away with from every single chapter that are going to help them break through the roadblocks that are standing between them and achieving their goals and really build a life of unstoppable grit.
Very cool. You are obviously an example of that too, Danielle, through everything you have gone through. So when we look back, I mean, your life has changed since 2020 from tragedy to COVID, losing a job, and recreating yourself. So when you look at Danielle today and where Danielle's headed, what does that look like?
Hmm. When I think about my future, I don't always know where it's headed. And I think there's beauty in that because for many years, I had my life planned out. My mom was in medical sales. I followed suit. I had a career in medical sales. I thought I was going to retire with the company that I was with for 7 years. And I was a manager. I was on the trajectory to get promoted to a director level. And I thought that was going to be my life. And if there's anything that I've learned from moving 27 times before the age of 30, being a military spouse and moving cross country, and also those series of events that took place within the past 6 months, is that I don't know what the future holds. And what I can focus on today is I can focus on each year I create a vision board and I think about the goals that I want to achieve and really who do I want to be and the legacy I want to leave. But I always leave room for openness and trusting that God has a purpose for me. And I don't always know what it is, but I'm going to just focus on what I can do today and put action in place to see what doors open up in the future.
Danielle, I think so many of us try to focus too much on the future instead of just being in the present and the here and now. And there is so much power in just being in the here and now and seeing where this world's going to take us. Danielle, when you look back at little Danielle, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, gosh, 18 was such a challenging year because I had met my dad when I was 15 and I had just moved in with my dad when I was 18. And my mom and I weren't talking at the time. So I would say at that moment, you're more capable than you probably think you are. And to believe in yourself, that there's going to be a lot of distractions, there's going to be a lot of noise, there's going to be a lot of challenges that you're going to face in your life. But every challenge that you face is preparing you for the next one, and you get to learn from it and you get to grow from it. But be present in the moment because I don't look back. I think of my life, and people will say, Gosh, you had such a challenging life. My mom took me away from my dad when I was 2.5. I didn't meet him till I was 15. And there's been a lot of challenges throughout my years. But I also look back and I even look at my kids today and I'm like, I don't regret any of those challenges. I have such gratitude for the life that I have now and what I've been able to create for my family. If anything, I'm kind of going, wow, kids, you don't know what challenges are. I get to find ways, different ways to teach them that, but without going through all of that. But yeah, I just think that it's looking at yourself and really believing in yourself because if you don't believe in yourself, others won't. So it starts with you.
Yeah. Danielle, your story, I mean, there's so many layers that you've already shared with us today, and you're thriving. Again, if you have not checked out Danielle Cabo, she is a force, and her website, her marketing, everything is so dialed in. You are, I will say, I look to you, Danielle, as what I want to achieve from a brand perspective. You have done a tremendous job.
Oh, you're already there. I love following you. You've shared great content on LinkedIn. So I enjoy your content and I'm glad that we got to be connected as well.
Me too, Danielle. Danielle is a master networker, by the way. So take notes there. As we're starting to come towards the end here, what are some takeaways everyone can walk away with today?
The one aspect that I would like people to walk away from is I work with a lot of individuals that are in sales and in leadership. And the biggest challenge that I hear from individuals who have been in their career for 15 plus years is they feel stuck or they've achieved all of the success that they wanted to achieve, but they still feel unfulfilled. And how often do we actually take the time to sit in a quiet room and think about all areas of our life? What brings us joy? What impact do you want to make? What legacy do you want to leave? And this is something that I do from like a professional setting, but a lot of times, and this is an exercise I share in my book, which is when a lot of people are feeling stuck or unfulfilled at work, think about all the different jobs that you've had throughout your career. Write down 3 aspects about each job that you've enjoyed. Write aspects about the manager that you enjoyed working with. And what are 2 aspects about each role that you've had that you didn't enjoy about it? And then you get to create your dream job. And I say that because a lot of times individuals will focus on, in order to be successful, I need to climb the corporate ladder. For me, I used to think that until I realized the corporate ladder for the company that I work for meant that that individual was on the road 300 days a year. And I had lived that life before. I spent 250 nights on the road in 1 year alone. And I didn't want to live that life anymore. So to me, success was not climbing the corporate ladder. Success was working with individuals. And at this point, my favorite part about being a leader was helping others achieve their goals. That was so fulfilling to me, was to see them earn President's Club, to see them get their job, to see them get better balance in their life. And so my hope is that people will listen to this episode, they'll sit themselves in a quiet room and start to ask yourself, what brings you joy? What do you want to do? What legacy do you want to leave? And start measuring your success off of that, not off of what society tells you success is.
So, Danielle, when we do this exercise, and again, another exercise I need to do myself, do you do this one personally, one professionally, or do you blend the two so everything comes together as one? How would you recommend?
Great question. I blend the two because a lot of times when I'm working with individuals who are feeling stuck, I say first, what lifestyle do you want to have? I have some individuals right now who are saying, my kids are out of the house. I like want to travel and be on the road and I really want to like take my career to the next level. I have a client right now who wants to be a VP of sales, wants to travel beyond the road. And I said, great. She's got clarity on that. There's others that are going, I'm at a different phase right now and I don't want to be on the road all the time. And so I believe it's your personal and your professional. You want to look at you as a person as a whole. They're not 2 separate people. They're person as a whole.
Yeah, person as a whole. We need to remember that because you're right. Our professional and our personal, they do bleed together, right? And it makes us that whole person that you're talking about. So, Danielle, you've offered so many great tidbits. If somebody wants to work with you, what clients do you work with, or what does that look like to work with Danielle past this podcast?
So I work with individuals and sales teams. So specifically individuals, if they're looking to get promoted, start a new role, or they're in sales and they want to achieve President's Club, they want to get in sales and they've had success, but maybe they just haven't achieved President's Club, or they're feeling overworked, overwhelmed, and they're going, I want to continue to be successful in my role, but I'm just overwhelmed. They want some time management strategies. Or I work with sales teams and organizations will bring me in for keynote speaking and workshops.
Awesome. And if they want to find you, where do they do that at?
My website, Danielle Cobo, Cobo, and then also LinkedIn, Danielle Cobo, Cobo.com. So think of the Cobos are going to Cabo.
And I've been saying Cabo the whole time and I wasn't corrected.
I will never correct somebody. I just don't ever interrupt, but I always will share at the end. Yeah.
I'm not the first one.
No, not at all.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Danielle Cobo, I just want to thank you for being here today. You have shared with us so many great takeaways. One being, know what success means to you. You provided us a way to look at how we get there. What does a whole person look like for ourselves? What makes us happy? What makes us thrive? What impact do we want to make on this world? I cannot thank you enough for being here today on Bold Moves, Confident Choices. And to all my listeners out there, please go have a wonderful day. Go be bold, be confident, and be you. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Bold Moves, Confident Choices. Remember, the boldest moves come from trusting ourselves and taking action. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with someone who needs a little extra boost to boldness. Until next time, be bold, be confident, be you. Thanks.